Hi, I'm Chris Raptus Real Estate. Welcome to episode 16 and how attributes affect purchasers' decision making. So I'm going to outline 10 points in the description, so make sure to check those out in further detail. And I think location, although it's a cliche, is the most important thing when it comes to real estate and affecting buyers' decision making. So it's funny how you'll find that the worst property on the best street can fetch a certain price, yet a property that is magnificent to rebuild but may not be in a salubrious location will fetch less dollars, so to speak. So just trying to work out the difference in price and how buyers think. So it's all about putting yourself in the buyer's shoes. So location, you've heard it time and time before, very important. Number two, I believe price is the most important factor when it comes to decision making. So buyers do want to see a price, and traditionally a fixed price tends to work well. I believe that buyers will look at either 10% up or 10% below that fixed price. So at Raptus, we do like to price our properties with a fixed price. Or if it is at auction, again, arguably infuriating for the buyers. If it is an auction, I like to not price the properties. And that's certainly something that we can talk about in another episode, but price certainly will impact the buyer's decision making. Thirdly, I think when you're looking at the comparison properties, they look at what things have sold for in local areas or down the road, and that will influence their decision making. So people look at what has sold, and then they try and ascertain a price point as to what that property is worth. So they like to look at historical data to work out how does this one compare. And again, properties should be valued on a basis of its own merits, and of course, as the market is going up and has continuously gone so, we can only look at past data to try and look at future projections of what that property is worth. In saying that, leads into floor plan. I see a lot of buyers, they'll bring a floor plan to the property, and they'll base their decision making on the attributes of the property. So, bedrooms, bathrooms, etc. Obviously, the more bedrooms and bathrooms, buyers see more value in that property. So therefore, you will get a higher price, in my experience, if there are more bedrooms and bathrooms. So something to think about if you're doing a renovation and to take that into consideration. I believe curb appeal, it's not my favorite, but again, for me, I've sold a numerous number of hammerhead homes where the property is situated at the back, and for some who like privacy, it works quite well, and they tend to rent very well. However, when it comes to street appeal or curb appeal, however you want to say it, buyers certainly like to show their friends and family, quote unquote, keeping up with the Joneses, look at me, and dazzle everyone with, look at the street presence that the home has. So street presence and the position of the property can influence buyers' decision making. Personally, someone is going to look at a property objectively if it's private and secure, whereas others are going to look at it differently and potentially pay more because of the streetscape and the curb appeal. So I think that's really, really important when it comes to real estate. And I guess that sort of segues over to the next point, which is views. Again, seaside properties, or if there's valley views or hill views, that can certainly impact how buyers perceive value. And of course, if there's trees that are protruding, and how that impacts the overall price. So you've got to take all these things into consideration. Obviously, esplanade properties tend to fetch more for obvious reasons. Wasn't always the case. In the 60s and 70s, there just wasn't the building materials that that we have access to today, and there'd be a lot of corrosion on those properties. So people tend to buy, one or two streets back from the beach, But now things have changed, materials have changed for the better, and now you're seeing obviously Esplanade properties fetch higher per square metre than 1 or 2, 3 streets back. Didn't always be the case. So something to be mindful of, and how trends change. Timing, I think, is very important. Again, controversial. I've always been of the opinion that a buyer, there's never the right time to buy a property, but if you're cashed up, you've got your affairs in order with your finances, then buyers should be in a position to purchase a property. And I believe buyers deep down inside, they really do know whether they can or can't buy the property. But again, circumstances change, inheritance, job changes, relocations interstate, so things do change. But again, especially with the higher end properties, they don't come up very often. So, buyers that are looking for the right one and are paying a premium for a home, they want to certainly find one that ticks all the boxes, and therefore timing can play a big role in buyers' purchasing habits. I think unique features is also important. Whether it's a Queen Anne villa, a Tudor, Californian bungalow, is it a gentleman's bungalow? What type of property is it? And the features, I find that obviously the best performing asset in South Australia is a character home with a 2025 or modern extension. Those homes tend to fetch the best price, and Adelaide buyers tend to really like that mix between the heritage and the contemporary renovation. So again, that will definitely determine buyers' thinking, and of course, some people have an attraction to certain type of properties. Maybe they grew up with that type of property when they were a child, and they will pay more for a Queen Anne villa from the sentimental value that they get. I feel that the storage and parking can impact as well. So if you're a truck driver or you have heavy machinery and you see a property on a big block and there's access to your vehicles on that block, buyers will tend to pay more. So that's something to be mindful of. Especially I've found that in popular beachside areas, buyers may not buy those properties if there's no car parking space. So again, that can certainly impact the price of a property, especially when it comes to apartments in the city. If it has a car park, it certainly can add anywhere between 10 to 20% to the purchase price, depending on how many car parks come with that property. So again, you've got to keep these things in mind when selling. And again, a lot of buyers don't factor these things when it comes to looking at the analytics of properties. They tend not to do as much research, whereas when you're on the other side and you're a seller, you need to factor these attributes into the property price, because these objections do come up as a real estate agent. So I guess the last but not the least is air rights or future potential development opportunity. And a lot of buyers sometimes don't factor that into the price of a property. Certainly banks, and when they do their valuations, can take that into consideration, but air rights are really super important. And again, whether a property can be developed 2, 3, 4, up to 15 plus story, that can impact the price on a property. So it's an education process for both the vendor and the agent. And of course, if you're picking an agent that has got experience in those fields, they'll be able to use similar case scenarios to educate the buyer in effort to obviously clinch the deal, because every property is unique, as I've said, and every vendor should look at their property based on its own merits. So if you're looking at changing strategies, or if you're looking at employing an agent, or maybe you've just bought a property and looking at a new property manager, you've got my name and number and email address. I look forward to reporting on the next video and providing as much information as I can, as I've built that up over the last 20 years of running my own company. So I really appreciate your time, and thanks for watching. Have a great day.